have a wonderful conversation led by the amazing Krishnan Varier. I probably butchered that. The Chief Investment Officer of Arcadian. He is leading a conversation with the CEO of Gold Standard Farms, Jarrel Howard. Gentlemen, please get to the stage if you wouldn't mind giving them a warm round of applause. Let's go, Jen.
All right. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Here with Jarrel and CEO of Gold Standard Farms. So Gold Standard Farms they're doing a lot of work with sustainable economic development. They have a program where they're really giving back to the community that we're going to get into. And, most notably, I think, is that you were the first company that was selected for Al Harrington's Viola incubation formula. So take us through, your kind of family background, which is really fascinating and unique. Where's your farm located, and what are you doing today?
So how is everyone doing? I'm Jarrel Howard, CEO of Gold Standard Farms. We are located in Northwest Tennessee, Martin, Tennessee to be exact, a small farm community of about 7,500 people. My great-grandfather actually founded our farm in 1931. It took him 10 years to save $3,000 before he can purchase it. So he was doing payment plans on it. But in 1941, he founded our farm, and we cornered our community by servicing with traditional crops, soybeans, corn, wheat, etc. In 2018, we pivoted into the CBD industry to where we now have 2 campuses where we specialize in the cultivation of indoor, outdoor CBD flower. And we are also looking into a new phase that we'll talk about, in a few more minutes. So we're excited about giving back to the community.
So most people that think about hemp in this country think about growing it for production of CBD.
Right.
You think about it a little differently. Tell us why.
Because of greenhouse emissions. Currently, we're at 51 billion tons that is put out per year. We need to get that to zero close to 2050. I think hemp is one of the things that we need to focus and emphasize on, not only just cultivating it, but using it for building materials as well. And that's what we are doing. We are partnering with a company by the name of Hemp Block International. They are a French and Australian company who's been working in the space of building load-bearing blocks for homes for 12 years. They have 300 homes between Israel, France, and Australia. So, we're looking to do that and sequester CO2 in many ways, whether it's coming from the farming element or if it's coming from, building with this and cutting out emissions.
Got it. Okay. And has hemp farming been something that your family has done previously? How did you get into, deciding to grow hemp versus growing some other crops, whether it's like corn or strawberries or something like that?
Well, in 2018, we had reached a focal point in our family where soybean prices were at about $500 an acre.
Yeah.
Which, as far as keeping the lights on, so to speak,
that's very different than what you're going to get from hemp, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're looking at 10 to 15,000 per acre at that time.
Yeah.
Because it was just jumping on the scene. So for us, we wanted to have something that can give us another 80 years of operation, right? And pivoting from the traditional agriculture side into the hemp cultivation side was extremely important. I felt that it was going to give us a place where we can pioneer this industry for those of color in the social equity component, right?
Yeah.
And just setting up the blueprint. So once we identified that we wanted to get into the hemp space, we needed to find someone who can mentor us, show us the ropes, and help advance and propel our ideas. And that's where Al Harrington and Viola incubation program came into fruition at.
Okay. Yeah. So, we've been talking about how you reached out to Al and how that really came to fruition. I think that's an interesting part of this story that is critical to what you're doing in terms of giving back to the community. So share with us a little bit about how you connected with Al, how the program has worked for you and your business,
right?
And where you're planning to take what you've learned through that process.
So what I did was I was in sports management prior to this.
Okay.
So I wrote a web.
You were an agent.
Yes.
Yeah.
I wrote a web out of players that had played with Al Harrington in his 16-year career that I knew. That was the first thing. So I said, okay, I'll reach out to those guys, see if I can get an introduction. I also reached out, with LinkedIn. And my approach was to be very serious and transparent. So I sent an actual joint venture agreement in our first convo. It was like, hey, this is what we're doing. I think that you would be a great partner and mentor. And I got zero response for 18 months.
Okay, so persistence, yeah.
Right? But I had a friend of mine that said, hey, you guys, we have a purple papaya, which is our signature hemp plant.
Okay.
And my friend says, hey, if you send him a picture of this plant, I guarantee he's going to respond because, viola's purple and that's his favorite color. And he did.
Yeah.
He says, hey, is that Photoshop? I said, it's real. So he says, oh, I want a sample. So from there to how we got here. But with the incubator program, after building with Al, giving him the history of my family, he says, hey, I want to make 100 millionaires. And I think that you all have started this off without my help. We've been in business for 80 years.
Yeah.
Right. So what we needed more than the financial.
You were growing hemp for CBD for
4 years. We started that in 2018.
Oh yeah.
But our overall business as a farm has been, for 81 years.
Mm-hmm.
So we had resources to go into the space and say, okay, let's figure out the best way that we can already get from A to B and then have Al help us get to, everywhere else or just do the intros. So that's what set us apart when he was selecting a company. It's like, okay, they're already doing it. They're already farming 20,000 plants. They're already, collecting purchase orders. They already have a geneticist and staff. And, so it gave us a form of credibility, but we needed someone within this space to take us to the next level. I think that's what Viola and Al has been doing for us.
Yeah, and this isn't something that just really happened overnight. This is a story. This is a generational story. Right. And I know the story because you told it to me, and it dates back to your great grandfather.
Yes,
and how he got into farming in the first place.
Right.
So can you walk us through your family history of how you got into farming, and the issues that you and your family were encountering as farmers to make this transition over, and what's the real benefit aside from making money that you see from what you're doing? Starting like from the history of the farm.
So we got into it. We've been farming. Farming has been a part of our family since 1823, as enslaved people.
1823.
Yeah. My great grandfather Edwin. He was the first person with a record as far as a written history of his birth date and all of that. 1866, he married my great grandmother Lucinda. Long story short, they could not read or write. They owned no land, anything. 20 years later, they were landowners. And my great grandfather, Frederick, he was born into an opportunity of owning. And he spread his wings and went to Greenwood, Mississippi when he married my great grandmother, and they became sharecroppers. So one of his things that he wanted to do was save enough money to where he could take his wife, their 12 children, to get their own 40 acres in the mule because America had failed them in that regards, respectfully. So when he was going into market, he had actually, bought fish or meat or whatever. And as he was unwrapping it, there was a for sale sign or an ad for 50 acres. Now, this is 1931, so there's a lot going on, right? You're looking at the Depression is kicking off and a lot of opportunities, but here he is as a sharecropper. It took him 10 years saved $3,000 to buy it. In fact, the last year before my family moved to our farm, my grandmother, her 8 siblings, and her parents, so 10 at that time, worked all year to save $100. That was the last bit of what was owed for the farm, right?
Yeah.
So you look at now, I say, well, if I can wake up and not have to spend $100, right?
It's $100 of family savings.
Family savings, a whole year.
Yeah.
10 people working.
Okay.
Right?
Right.
So, for us, giving back is being able to be a vessel opposed to an anchor. My job isn't necessarily here to keep you in one place or that's almost equivalent to practicing for the Boston Marathon on the treadmill.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we want to be a vessel. I want to help get you to where you want to go safely and make sure that you come back and do the same thing.
Yeah.
And that's where, when you talk about a social equity component, why we created the Healthy Economic Momentum Push, or HEMP for short, to be able to educate, right? You have to understand when you're getting into a space or a business, you want to be educated on what you're doing. We want to be able to incubate you, see you through, and then ultimately accelerate, right? Make sure that you have the financial capabilities to actually thrive, be a solid business, get through the tough times. So that's what I've learned from Al, and almost now I'm doing it, right?
Yeah.
In the sense of saying, hey, okay, I want to help educate you. I want to incubate and I want to accelerate through the Healthy Economic Momentum Push, which creates opportunities for those who have historically been discriminated against in certain industries, right?
Yep.
So traditional farming, minorities make up 2%, right? Something like that in cannabis, right? So there's some similarities that we have to work on and use what we have to advance and propel, right? So.
Yeah. Okay. So your family's been in farming for a long time, and this is really your great grandfather that set the stage for you to be able to do this today.
Right.
And so this is more a story of how you taken your independence and been able to leverage that into this business,
right.
and what you're doing to give back in terms of social equity. How you define social equity is by helping others find that independence themselves.
Right.
So, your business, though, I think it's really important that we kind of hit on this. Your business is you're growing hemp.
Yes.
But you're not growing it for CBD. You're growing it to make hemp blocks.
Yes, to make hemp blocks.
So what are hemp blocks?
So hemp block is the future of building in the United States.
The future of building.
Yes.
Okay.
So
what is it replacing?
And traditional materials, right?
Okay.
So one of the things is the structural side more so, but the benefits, right? Being fire retardant, having low emissions, carbon negative. You're also looking at termite resistant, right?
Okay.
Water
resistant.
Yeah, farm.
Okay.
I mean, not farming. Hurricane proof.
Yeah.
Right. So you have all of these different capabilities, and what we want to do is find areas that have problems, right? So when we were in New Orleans, we were talking to the people in the parishes, and they said, "Hey, we need homes that don't go through all of these things with termites. We have a large termite infestation. Well, hemp block can help that. It keeps you cooler in the summer. It keeps you warmer in the winter. It sequesters 10 to 20 tons of carbon dioxide within the fibers of this material, right? So when you look at, as we spoke on earlier, greenhouse emissions and what's going on with climate change, right? Being able to cultivate X amount of acres to help sequester that, being able to build with that, eliminating VOCs, volatile organic compounds, building sickness, and all of these different things that are hindering not just people, but just the earth. We have to do a better job taking care of what we have.
Yeah.
Right. So it's cool to have some of the best flower and purple flower and consumption based, but if you have something that can, clean up what we've pretty much damaged, right? Prior to hemp being outlawed, it was 20 to 30% of farmers, or 20 to 30% of what you grew had to be hemp. Right?
Had to be hemp.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when my grandmother was coming up in Mississippi, she vividly remembers growing hemp. Oh no, 30% of this farm would be hemp, and they would use that for paper or robes or textiles, clothing, whatever. Right. But also what they didn't know is it was keeping us healthier. Right. And that's why, we're so invested into building with the hemp opposed to just having it for a consumption-based product.
Keeping us healthier by sucking out carbon dioxide from the air.
By eliminating, yes.
And that's one of the biggest issues that's causing climate change today is CO2. So basically, if we would have continued to have grown hemp the way that your grandmother did,
right,
we wouldn't be in the situation we would be today. Is that what you're?
We wouldn't be at this high of a situation, right? Okay. So when you look at what we're doing, I think Bill Gates recently said that carbon emissions went down 5% over the pandemic, but at the end of the day, millions of lives were lost, people lost jobs. So we don't want it to constantly go down on that side, right? That's like how we have to do it is make sure that we're putting enough hemp, in my personal opinion, in the ground to do a variety of things, which is offset emissions.
Got it. Okay. All right. And so where are you in the process of building the business out right now with the hemp farm and producing hemp blocks out of the hemp? Where does it go from here?
So we've partnered, like I said, with our partners. We have 1.2 million blocks that are ready for deployment here into the States. We've identified numerous developers and contractors that would like to build due to the fact that there's high demand for products, but there's no way to get them right now.
So
right?
Because of supply chain
issues. Of supply chain issues, right? So just identifying these companies and saying, hey, these are the products that we had, doing price quotes and quoting. When you look at using our product, it's going to be 70% faster. You're going to save about 30% on the building and the costs, right? And you have a superior product at a quality price. So that's one of the main things why we think that hemp block is going to be intricate moving forward in America and also, all over. But definitely setting up our stones here, right? 1.5 million homes are needed in our area of Tennessee, in Nashville. There's 75,000 homes needed a year. And I think it would just be pretty cool to have a hemp house, right?
I mean, I live in LA and there's a complete shortage of houses and there's a shortage of housing all over the US.
Right.
You're focused on Tennessee right now.
Mm-hmm.
Any plans to expand outside of the state?
We do have plans to expand to at least 4 other locations, whether it's California, Tennessee, Florida, we're looking to see, but we definitely will expand. I think that this is going to be something that sets a precedent in the industry. I think it's going to be something where when we look back 5 to 10 years, investors and partners are going to say, hey, we're happy. We jumped in with you guys and this is going to take us to a much cleaner.
You've been able to pivot really quickly as conditions. You see conditions change. For example, you were growing soybeans, right? Yeah, and corn. I think you were also growing, and the margins were just getting squashed.
Right.
You guys were, It was getting more difficult to run your business.
Right.
And so you switched to hemp.
Right.
You started growing that for CBD.
Got oversaturated.
Started seeing the margins getting squashed there.
Right.
So you switched quickly before anyone else to industrial hemp.
Right.
And the number of applications in industrial hemp, are numerous. This is one that addresses a specific need that we have right now in this country, which is a shortage of housing.
Right.
Which is also, it also addresses the need of being able to sequester CO2, so lowers our carbon emissions in this country. And regenerative farming is also another aspect of growing hemp that you're going to be able to take advantage of or help others take advantage of that you're assisting in these communities. So, in these other markets that you're expanding into, how are you, blending the community into that, empowering people from, primarily from from Black communities that have not had the opportunity to, to do what you've been able to do because of the work your family's done, to also, reaping some rewards from this future boom here.
Real quick, because I see where we're going. But what we wanted to do was right some of the things that have historically been wronged with farmers of color. Most importantly, at our height, we had 15 million acres amongst 1.5 million farmers, and that was in 1921. You look over 100 years now, we have 45,000 African-American farmers. We've lost 13 million acres, and we make up 1.2%. So our biggest thing is giving them opportunity to cultivate, monetize, and get back what has been historically lost. Yeah. And it starts with giving them an opportunity to actually win. And, I love soybeans to death, and it's done great by our family, but we have to give people opportunity to create generational wealth.
We're running out of time here. You've got big goals. It's going to take capital to do that. Are you looking for capital partners right now?
Yes.
How can folks reach out to you?
They can reach out when you see me. I will give you my card. We are actually looking to raise, and any questions you have, let me know.
Fantastic. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.